The Los Alamos National Laboratory, also known as LANL, is where nuclear weapons production first began. Over 80 years later, LANL is still producing plutonium pits and is aggressively expanding their production. Plutonium pits are the radioactive fissile cores of nuclear bombs. In 2018, the Trump administration decided to produce at least 80 pits per year by 2030, including 30 or more at LANL and 50 or more at the Savannah River site in South Carolina.
The first problem is that the United States doesn't truly need new plutonium pits. Scientific studies have so far proven that pits age very slowly, and the U.S. already has thousands of pits in reserve in storage at the Pantex plant in Texas. Second, no pit production is to maintain the existing nuclear weapons stockpile. Instead, all future pit production is for new design warheads, the first since the end of the Cold War. These new nuclear weapons could prompt the U.S. to resume nuclear weapons testing.
The plutonium pit production and new missile programs planned by the U.S. government are far-reaching and affect many locations throughout the country. In Livermore, California, the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory is the lead lab for the development of the W-87-1 warhead, which will sit on top of the planned 450 new Sentinel intercontinental ballistic missiles, which are destined for silos across 5 U.S. states.
With a total cost upwards of $336 billion, Livermore's newly designed warhead includes a newly designed plutonium pit. And these pits will take up the first 10 years of plutonium pit production at Los Alamos National Lab's plutonium facility. Livermore is heavily involved in supporting the pit production plant and is planning to enhance its plutonium utilization, which means increased plutonium experimentation and plutonium throughput in order to facilitate new plutonium pit production.
In addition to LANL, the Savannah River site in South Carolina was also proposed for pit production. Known as SRS, it produced tritium and plutonium for use in nuclear weapons during the Cold War. It is now one of the most contaminated sites in the U.S.
It's a designated Superfund site, and it had 37 million gallons of radioactive waste to be cleaned up. It poisoned the earth, it poisoned the water in that area, and now they propose to produce plutonium pits there too. This is a mission that SRS has never performed in its history.
In the summer of 2021, on behalf of Nuclear Watch New Mexico, SRS Watch, Tri-Valley Cares, and the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, the South Carolina Environmental Law Project sued the Department of Energy and the National Nuclear Security Administration for violating the National Environmental Policy Act, otherwise known as NEPA.
The way NEPA works is it requires agencies to evaluate the environmental consequences of their projects. It also, importantly, requires public participation. It also requires the agency to respond to these public comments. If the agency is found to have violated NEPA, then oftentimes the agency is not allowed to move forward with the project.
In October of 2024, a federal judge in South Carolina found that the Department of Energy and the NNSA violated NEPA. The agencies tried to rely on inconsistent justifications for expanded pit production and failed to provide any opportunity for public input on reasonable alternatives. Instead, the defendants had simply decided what they wanted to do, which was to produce pits at LANL and SRS, and then conducted analyses after that critical decision had been made.
As part of the settlement, the defendants must now conduct a thorough, programmatic NEPA review of pit production and produce a full, thorough assessment of a range of viable alternatives. Now the public has an opportunity to scrutinize this project.
This ruling is a win for government accountability and highlights the importance of public input under NEPA, especially in projects that can have far-reaching, devastating impacts.
Particularly in cases like this one, you have an agency proposing to create components for weapons of mass destruction, which in itself can create severe environmental effects. And also the creation of these components produces extreme amounts of toxic and radioactive waste, some of which can persist for thousands of years. That is a severe environmental effect that needs to be evaluated closely.